Alright fellas, what's going on? Denonu here, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And welcome to the 𝐏𝐤𝐤𝐞 podcast, episode number 6. And it's the podcast where I just talk about games and topics that interest me and just giving my opinions out there for you to hear. So, in this episode here, we're going to be talking about, let's say, 4 different topics. Nothing really fancy, nothing, nothing super long. Trying to get the video size down to like 20-25 minutes. So we're going to take things a little bit slow here. So first thing, we're going to be talking about this game called 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭. Supposedly it's a new game that's going to be dropping on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC. And from what they're saying about it, it looks like it's going to be a stealth action, third-person type game that takes inspiration from like John Wick movies. And they had like a little story trailer that came out with it. And me being a fan of stealth games and stuff like that, and I'm a huge fan of John Wick, this immediately piqued my interest and everything. So it from the trailer, they don't have really have a lot to tell to tell about the game. They just really give you the premise of, I guess, what the game's going to be about. And supposedly it follows, I guess, this ex-military type dude, and some people, I guess, they kidnapped him, performed some experiments on him, kept him captive for like a few years. And I don't know if he's breaking out, or let's say he finds himself in the world and he basically wants to confront them to figure out why they did what they did. And basically, I guess they experimented on him, and he has these mental abilities where he has time control and telekinesis along with that. However, the catch is, I guess, the more he uses his powers, I guess, the more crazier it makes him. Like it hits his sanity. So I don't know if that's going to be a game mechanic. If that is, that's going to be a really cool twist on the whole time travel and telekinesis, because we've had, let's face it, we've had like probably a million games where you can do telekinesis and time control. Like I could think of like 5 off the top of my head right now. You had that one Xbox One game that kind of sort of flopped. You had Time Shift a few years back. A bunch of other games where you had time travel and stuff. And what I'm hoping is that they do something a little bit different with this game. Somehow give us those same abilities, but in a way that we haven't really experienced, in a game so far. Usually that's kind of hard to do because, the game developers, I guess, they're not going to know if it works until after the game comes out. But so far in the trailer, at least the premise is good. The gameplay looks kind of generic, so it didn't look polished. So this wasn't like a cinematic trailer by any means. It was like just a simple gameplay trailer, I guess, action story premise trailer. And the gameplay didn't inspire me all that much. So it's like, I'm hoping they can make some more polished gameplay, because I saw in a few places with the gunplay looked kind of finicky and cheap. So that tells me this isn't going to be like that AAA release, So it probably not going to have that kind of polish to it, but I'm hoping they can get somewhere in between, let's say, like a B-rate generic game and a AAA type polish to it. Because this game definitely does have my interest, and I'm really, really excited to see what they do with it. Hopefully they do good things. But all right, next we're going to be talking about here, and this is probably going to be the biggest chunk in the video here. We're going to be talking about Anthem, BioWare's A-Team's new baby, the new Destiny killer, whatever you want to call it. With me being a huge fan of sci-fi games, and I'm also a fan of, I don't know what to call it, people in armor, the Guyver, Iron Man, any type of medium where somebody can, let's say, I've never been a fan of like medieval knights and all of that kind of sort of stuff. But as far as like people wearing armor to do something in a sci-fi setting, I'm a huge fan of that. Like I'm a huge fan of Crisis also. So this game definitely does pique my interest, and I'm really, really hopeful for the game. Let me say that. I'm not hyped. I'm not one of those people who get hyped for a game. you know, so I don't think it's going to be the greatest thing ever. But I will say that it does look good, YouTube. Like it does look good. I think it's going to come across and actually give Destiny a run for its money, because Bungie, in how they made Destiny, and even before Destiny, let's say I'm going to go all the way back to Halo. They know how to make a decent story, but not a great one. Like, I love Halo, don't get me wrong. But the story in Halo, at least as far as the games, as far as what Bungie did, is a whole, you know, it was kind of messy. You know, it wasn't nowhere near as great as it could be. And I'm a hardcore Halo fan. I love it. But it was basically, at least with Halo 1, 2, 3, they made greatness with part 1, and then in part 2 and 3 they tried to recapture the magic of part 1. They never did anything else with the story to elevate the medium. You know, they just kind of just did what they could and just tried to recapture the magic that the first game had. BioWare, on the other hand, they're known for making great stories. I can go back to what, Baldur's Gate, all of that stuff, Dragon Age, Mass Effect. You know, they're known for making great badass science fiction and fantasy stories. So that's like their bread and butter. So for them to jump into the, you know, into, I don't know what you would call Destiny, fake ass MMO or shared world shooter, I hear that going around a lot. For them to jump into that genre, I'm really hoping that it hits hard. Like, I wanted to hit like Destiny did. I wanted to sweep Destiny under the rug. I don't think it's gonna do that because Destiny, you know, obviously has a really big following since, you know, the first game out, you know, since the first game came out a few years ago. So I don't think it's gonna, like, you know, knock Destiny off the shelf anytime soon. But I do think that both of these games play to different types of audiences. People like myself, people who like sci-fi, we're gonna probably pick up both. However, where I think Anthem is better than Destiny, Destiny is for the most part completely sci-fi, and so is Anthem. But I'll break down what I mean in a second. Destiny, you have a lot of energy weapons, you have a lot of jumping around, magical space powers. You know, you have a lot of that. It's high-end science fiction, but it has like an air of fantasy with it. Anthem is on the other end of the spectrum. It's sci-fi, yes, but it has like a realistic military feel to it. You have people in mech suits using big ass mechanical, you know, projectile based weaponry, missiles, explosions, that kind of sort of thing. That appeals to a certain certain audience, like people who, let's say, like prime example, people who like military shooters. If I want to call it a military shooter, let's say COD, even though it's, you know, I wouldn't call it one, but same vein as that. You have COD, Battlefield, Rainbow Six, you know, all of those modern military FPS games that people love to play. Those people, for the most part, don't like Destiny because of how far science fiction it is. You know, they like to play with realistic guns, they like to shoot people with bullets, they like to make explosions, things like that. In Destiny, you don't really get that because of it being high-end sci-fi. But if all of the weapons are like that in Anthem, and from the little trailers and the gameplay sections that they had, that's what it seems like. A lot of those people who, let's say, wouldn't play Destiny because of that are going to jump on Anthem because of how they do it. Plus, Anthem, I'm sorry, shits on Destiny's graphics. So even though graphics aren't the whole thing, Anthem looks damn good. And if their world is going to be how it was in that little, I don't know if it was a trailer or just like a gameplay that they spliced together, but during the video during E3, you showed like the people in the mechs flying around. If that's going to be like Anthem's open world, kind of like how Destiny had like the patrol missions and stuff like that, if that's what that's going to be, that's a whole lot better than, you know, riding on that bullshit scooter that they give you in Destiny that you don't do shit with. So I don't know if that's going to be like a thing, but it should be a thing if it's not. Plus, I'm hearing nothing but good things from it. from the gameplay, I see a lot of little hints and stuff that I personally like in Destiny, or at least when I was playing. I think I stopped playing Destiny around the Taken King, you know, after that came out. But they may have patched this in. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't played Destiny since. But I know in Anthem, in the trailer, when he got a new gun, it showed him the gun, and it kind of broke down the stats like an RPG game would. Like, oh, this will increase your something by this many, or this would lower something else by this. I like that because I love that in RPG games. When I see a new piece of gear, I can instantly know what it's going to do. I don't have to go equip the gun, go look at the damage, and then, you know, figure that out for myself. It just instantly shows it to me. So it makes everything more streamlined. I like that. Something else that I'm hoping Anthem does that Destiny didn't do. Destiny has a lot of, and sorry for comparing both games, but it's what everybody's doing, and it's like the only other game of its kind on console. So, you know, I have to really compare the two. One thing that Destiny doesn't do well, or didn't do well when it came out, was Destiny had to pretty much, or Bungie had to pretty much make the game up as it goes, you know, as it went along. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. The game should have been ready when it came out. Some shit happened behind the scenes. It is what it is. Game wasn't ready when it came out. And but one thing it didn't do was, in Destiny, you had a lot of guns that were basically the same. Like, you have 3 different vendors that all give you guns that do the same stuff, or they have the same damage levels. Yeah, you had like exotics that might do something different, but for the most part, every gun was of a same, you know, damage level. It was based around your light level. So the guns really felt the same. It didn't matter which gun you used. That's what I'm trying to get at. Unless you wanted like whatever the side effect was. Like if you pulled out a regular rocket launcher and then you pulled out, you know, the Gjallarhorn or something like that, you wanted it for like the cluster bomb effect of it. So it's like most of the exotics did something a little bit different, and that's what you wanted, not necessarily, you know, that specific rocket launcher because it, you know, it fired a rocket. You know what I'm saying? All the rocket launchers fire a rocket, but you know, you wanted that one because it did a little bit more. But as far as all the base weapons in the game, they were all pretty much the same. Like, you could interchange one shotgun for another. You know, the regular weapons didn't really matter. But whereas in Anthem, if they can somehow do that and pull in, well, not do that, and they can pull in and make every weapon feel at least somewhat unique, or make every weapon class feel somewhat different, then perhaps, you know, they can introduce a weapon system that just shits on whatever Destiny does. And also, BioWare is known for having good music in their games. So I'm hoping the music is going to be there. They haven't really released anything, so I can't really comment on whether the game has good music or not. But I know Destiny just doesn't have good music at all. It's not bad. I've heard worse, but it's nothing inspiring outside of like the main theme of Destiny. That's it. You know, you know, there's nothing else to it. But Anthem looks good so far. I mean, I'm waiting for it to come out. I think they said it comes out, what, like next year in the fall. So we're going to be seeing tons of trailers and everything as time goes on, and, you know, but they're planning on releasing multiple DLCs. They're planning on, you know, this is going to be EA's Destiny. So Activision has Destiny, EA has Anthem. Who knows is going to, who knows is going to be better. I'm hoping it's Anthem because Bungie kind of fucked up with Destiny, and they really didn't do a whole lot with it even after it came out. Yeah, they updated the game. Yeah, they changed things around. The Taken King did a whole lot, but they really didn't do anything with the DLCs. You never went to another galaxy. You never went to like a whole other planet to experience something completely different. They just kind of stuck you with the same thing, and oh, here's a new, and a new skin enemy for you to fight, or here's a new strike mission, here's the new raids, you know, that kind of sort of thing. They never did anything really truly new. They just kind of gave you like different upgrades for what you already had, you know. I will say this though, I do wish to see that Anthem had like a bigger and better hub world. You know, I'm hoping they don't make something like Destiny did, like where it's just small. I want it to be, you know, something substantial. And I'm hoping that they take the raid idea from Destiny, because I think that was a great idea. Destiny, for the most part, had decent raids, you know, as far as that kind of sort of stuff. So I'm hoping that maybe they steal that idea and have something similar in Anthem. That could only be a plus for them. I'm hoping the customization is there with the armor and stuff. I forget what do they call them in Anthem? The javelins. I'm hoping that that you see tons of customization with that. I know walking around, you know, if everybody's walking around wearing the same default stuff, I know that's gonna bug me because I'm somebody who likes to look unique. So I'm hoping they give you tons of different options. Maybe some things that changes the model of your character a little bit. So instead of, let's say, wearing like the big blocky Hulkbuster-esque armor, I want something along the lines of the Bleeding Edge armor. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, different Iron Man armors and stuff that he had. The Hulkbuster is the one where obviously he fights the Hulk in, but the Bleeding Edge armor was something that he had. It was sleeker, it was more humanistic, it was more slender, it wasn't all big and bulky. So I'm hoping that they put out skins and stuff in Anthem that, you know, that's similar. Like, you know, give me different skins that make me look almost completely different from the default model. You know, I just don't want different colors and things like that, you know, because different colors, but having everybody wearing the same thing is kind of redundant to me. Because that's something that Destiny really didn't do. Like, you had different armor, that's cool, but when it came down to like the character customization, you know, it was garbage. YouTube, there was no other way to put it. I'm hoping that if Anthem does have a character customization type screen, or, you know, create your character type thing, I'm hoping that they actually put some time into it. Unlike in Destiny, I want to see some facial hair on my character. You know, I just don't want to be clean shaven all the time. I mean, that's I mean, I don't know why they missed that in Destiny, but it is what it is. But otherwise, I mean, Anthem looks great. They're promising, just like Destiny, that it's going to be like a 5 to 10 year type experience. So who knows if it's going to be like Destiny, where after a couple years they drop a sequel, or if they're just going to continue on with the same base game and just add to it over time. I know, given how modern consoles work, they can really do either or and probably still have the game look good. So, all right. Let's see, what else can we talk about? I'm trying to see if I missed anything about Anthem. Oh, one thing that that interested me. I don't know if this is going to be a good or a bad thing. They said that when you're running around out in the world in the game, it's going to be third person. But when you go back to the hub world, it's going to be in first person. Most games don't switch it like that. I mean, it's not completely, you know, unheard of. I've known a couple games that have done it, but it's kind of weird to see that they would kind of shoehorn that in there. I'm hoping they make a way to where you can make it, you know, probably not in the world, because if they, because you're probably not going to be able to see everything in first person. But at least if you're in the hub world, I would hope they have a button to where you can switch the camera, so you can keep it third person if you wanted to. Because switching back between third and first, that's going to be a jarring experience. I mean, maybe people will get used to it, so maybe it's not that big of a thing. But I would think that's a big of a thing, you know. All right. And hopefully it has drop-in, drop-out co-op too. I think they said it will, but I'm hoping that it's seamless. I know that's one thing Destiny actually did right, was that you could just jump in your friend's game and just, you know, teleport and appear next to them. From what I'm seeing in Anthem, I think they had like a little gameplay segment where they showed people doing that. So if they can make that streamlined with, you know, hopefully, you know, their loading screens are nowhere near as long as how Destiny's was in the beginning. I think that'll be, you know, pretty cool. And, you know, hopefully you can do everything with your, you know, with your partners, with your friends, unlike in Destiny where you couldn't do certain stuff if like you wasn't matched together with them, or because Destiny didn't have any matchmaking for the raids and for certain of other things. So when it came out, so I'm hoping that Anthem has at least that. So if you're playing by yourself, you can still join up with other people to do whatever the game content, you know, is going to be. And that's another thing, is I'm hoping, unlike Destiny, that Anthem actually has that content. I think it will, only because BioWare, this is BioWare's A team writing it. That's probably why Andromeda was so shitty, is because that was like their B team and they had those development problems with that. But this is BioWare's A team. They're known for putting in work, YouTube. This is the team that's behind, you know, like I said, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and you know, a lot of their older stuff. Although one thing that bugs me is a few key people from BioWare left over the years since like Mass Effect and the rest of those games. So hopefully that doesn't shake up the development team too much, so where now they're not the same group of people, or they can't do the same kind of work. Because I would hate to see them fall story-wise, because story has been like their #1 thing in almost every one of their games. And for me, when I pick up and play a game, story is the first thing. I have to get connected to the game universe in order to care about playing the game. That's #1. If I can't just pick up a game and then just be like, oh, screw the story, I'm not going to play it, I'm just going to jump into multiplayer. Like, no, that's not how it works with me. You know, because I'm not going to care about anything I do. So I'm hoping the story is there. Like, if they come out with some bullshit Destiny, I will rip this game a new asshole on YouTube. I'll make like weeks of videos talking shit about it. But hopefully that's not the case, YouTube. All right, next thing we're going to talk about here, this is going to be short. It's going to be short. DoomFist, you know, new character in Overwatch. And it's actually a big buff black dude. I wasn't expecting that, YouTube. I know I've been seeing the hype for DoomFist before it came out. I know I kept seeing Terry Crews's face pop up everywhere when somebody was talking about it. They were trying to, hopefully, you know, I think the fans were trying to push him to voice act the character and everything. But one thing I wanted to say, since I'm not a huge, you know, Overwatch player, I will say this. Mainly because, I mean, I like the game, but I don't have people to play with, so it's hard playing a team-based game when you're by yourself for the most part. So I have it, but I don't really play it all that much. But I will say this: I watched the anime teaser, trailer, intro to the character, whatever you want to call it, his intro video, and it was actually pretty damn good, YouTube. Like, why doesn't Blizzard make like an Overwatch anime? I know I'm not the first one to say that, but like, I remember when the game came out, I think it was it Tracer's video? Because I know I seen like a couple of them when the game came out. Like, you had one where she was trying to stop the sniper chick from sniping somebody. That was pretty good. And you also had I guess the one where she was in a museum trying to stop something and she was saving civilians while she was fighting and all that stuff. Those trailers are like badass. They're choreographed very well. And even this DoomFist one was like, you had him punching his way out of prison, you know, you had him beating up Hanzo, was it Hanzo? No, Genji, the ninja guy, and Tracer. And it's like, they were just done very well. Like, why don't they just put like, I mean, if you're not going to make like a whole anime, I can say that. Like, if you're not going to make like a 26 episode anime, but you know, because they got the characters and the story in there, or they could make a story in there, then put something on Netflix. You know, make like a 13 episode type thing where you have the heroes going against, you know, whatever bad guys you have in the universe. Like, people would watch that. That'd probably make tons of money. You know how many people are into Overwatch and watching all like the characters and stuff? Like, they're all over the internet. They're all over Reddit. They're all over like hentai websites and stuff. It's like, you can't go nowhere without seeing Overwatch characters. So like, it makes sense for them to like do something like that. They slipping, YouTube. Blizzard is slipping. They need to jump on that. you know, before, for Overwatch's popularity dies down, and then when they want to do it, it's not there no more. But it does definitely look good. I mean, I don't know how he plays like. I know if a friend, I got a friend who's thinking about picking it up. If he picks it up, I might jump back into Overwatch and play it with him and upload videos for the channel. So if that's the case, I'm definitely going to be picking DoomFist first, and I'm guessing he's going to be running around punching people in the face. So I can easily make jokes and stuff about that. But speaking of Netflix here, we're going to jump down to the last topic of the day. This is just going to be just a review or just an opinion, so to speak. But basically, recently, I don't know when it exactly dropped. I want to say it dropped like a week and a half ago, but they made, I guess, you can call it, they try to call it a season, but they made a Castlevania anime on Netflix. And they had the nerve to call it, oh, this is season 1. Like, no, the fuck it's not. It's called a teaser. But basically, they came out with what amounts to be an OVA based around the third Castlevania game and the story on it. And I was taking calls at work, and in between calls, I was binge watching it, and I fell in love with it. As somebody who's a huge Castlevania fan, it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, if you haven't played the games or if you don't know the story, you can't watch it. That's not the case. With this here, it kind of just explains everything that you need to see, you know, about the anime. And it was pretty good. Like the intro episode, like the first episode with Dracula in it, loved it. That was done extremely well. I don't want to spoil anything in the story, but they pretty much explained why Dracula was pissed. And I love how they handle Dracula, you know, because they go into some other stuff and some things with his character, and they got the emotion down right. Like when he was pissed and how they showed him in certain scenes and some of the dialogue that they had, like this was written extremely well. And it definitely showed in that episode, and I think later on in like the third part to it too. But basically, it's a teaser, I guess. Maybe they didn't feel like they wanted to put the money in to make a whole anime series on Netflix. So this feels more like a teaser of anything. Like, oh, you know, here's a couple episodes. If you guys like it, then we'll give you more, kind of sort of thing. So don't go in, you know, into this expecting like this grand story arc of epics or nothing like that. It's definitely not. What it does is it gives you a premise. Dracula's pissed, trying to wipe out humanity. And here is this Belmont guy who is from, you know, obviously if you played any Castlevania games, the Belmonts were the family who basically fought Dracula throughout the decades and the years and things like that. And it goes from Dracula showing like, okay, here's why he's mad and explaining that, to showing you like, okay, here's this Belmont guy. And you know, like he's the, you know, going to probably be the main character along with a couple of other people. And he gets introduced into, I guess, this town where everything takes place, and he gets caught up into this religious, I guess you can say, you know, call it a religious debate. But the religious people in this country are the ones who pissed off Dracula, and they're kind of blaming everything on Dracula and these other people. And he gets there and be like, no, it's not the other people. It's just, you know, you guys are zealots. You know, you did something bad, he's pissed, and, you know, you're the reason why he's pissed. It's not because, let's say, like these other guys that, you know, don't believe in God. That's not why he's doing all this stuff. But they get into that. I don't want to say anything to spoil anything, but but basically these guys try to get him to help him save this other person, and that leads into, I guess, him going after Dracula and everything. They even showed 𝐿𝐿𝐿 in there too, so I thought that was pretty cool as well. Like he didn't actually, Belmont didn't actually fight Dracula at the, you know, at the end of it, because like I said, this feels more like an intro or a teaser for, I guess, a series. Supposedly it's getting a season 2, and I'm guessing season 2 is going to have a little bit more episodes to it, and that's going to be their journey to take down Dracula, right? But at the end of this part here, at the end of the 4th episode, he actually fights 𝐿𝐿. And I thought that was a pretty decent fight. You had a lot of badass fighting, but in between that, like I said, the writing was good. So they were speaking back, you know, back and forth. The dialogue was done very well. This isn't something that they just put out there. It was like, oh, let's, you know, make this cheap little thing and slap the Castlevania name on it. This is something they actually put a little bit of money into, and it definitely shows. Some of the fire effects, especially in that first episode with Dracula, done very well. A lot of the animations are just, you know, typical anime stuff. I'm not going to jump into that. So that depends on pretty much where you like with anime. If you like anime, you'll like it. If you don't like the anime style and you like the old school Hanna-Barbera, Tom and Jerry type animations where pretty much every line moves when something happens, then if you like that, then you probably, you know, not going to like it, because this is anime. This isn't old school American animation. But outside of that, the only thing I could say is I loved it overall. Definitely wanted to see more. That's where it left me. It was one of those things where it's like, what the fuck? It's only 4 episodes. Why can't I, why did they make a whole thing? I was kind of pissed that we know when it ended because I wanted to see more. But I loved it. But if I had to knock it one, if I had to look at everything, the music wasn't there. And I don't know exactly why. Castlevania is one of those game series that no matter which game you're playing in the series, you have pretty much badass music playing through it. Like, I know you had Bloody Tears in the older one. You had the music from Symphony of the Night. You had a lot of great music that they could have pulled from. But I know normally whenever they do that, you got to get licensing agreements and things like that. You can't just use it because it has the same name. So maybe when they put out this teaser, maybe they couldn't get none of that. Hopefully with season 2, I would love to see, hear like maybe Bloody Tears in the background, or at least like a remix rendition of it, or at least, one of the main themes from the game as they're going off and doing something, or as they're traveling to meet Dracula or whatever. I would love if they even threw in like different homages, like let's say like, let's say he has to whip a candle or something, right? And then you have somebody look at him and be like, why'd you whip the candle? And he'd be like, you ain't gonna get nothing from out of there. Or just, make a joke at some of the stuff that you do in the game, Or if like, let's say like in the beginning, he starts off with like a leather whip like he has. But as like the game goes on, maybe he gets a chain whip, leading to some of the upgrades that he has in the games. Or if he uses some of the side weaponry that you have in the games, like the potions, the cross-shaped boomerang, the daggers, things like that. I know in this he did have the daggers though. I will say that. Something else I did like about it though, it was violent, YouTube. Like, like I was going into it expecting like, oh, like they say it's rated R, it's gonna be whatever. You know what I'm saying? Besides, I think they cussed a few times in it, but like Dracula's demons was ripping people in half, holding babies in their mouth, things like that. Besides that, because I know that's probably what everybody's talking about when they talk about how gory this is. One thing that stood out to me was when Belmont took his whip to the side of some dude's head and knocked his eye out. Or like he whipped this guy, who was holding this sword, and he whipped his sword hand and it took his finger off. I love to see that because in movies and stuff, they never really jump into how strong whips are. Like the most you see in movies and stuff is probably if you've seen Catwoman try to whip something in any of the Batman movies, that's about it. Or like you watch Indiana Jones from back in the day and he's just whipping somebody and they're screaming in pain but nothing's really happening. No, that's not the way whips work. If you have a bullwhip, YouTube, and you get struck by that bullwhip, there's a reasons why slaves' backs are all messed up. That's all I'm gonna say. It will literally peel the skin and flesh from your bones. So to see like the whip somebody's finger off or hit the side of the guy's head and it whipped his eye completely, completely out of his head, popped his eye out. It was that stood out to me during that fight scene. I was like, you know what? That's nice to see something that's like realistic. Because if you took a whip to somebody's head and it hit him on the side of the head and nicked their eye like that, yeah, something like that probably would happen. So I think that was pretty good. But anyways, guys, that's just my review / opinion on Castlevania and on some of those other things there. If you guys want to see me talk about anything specific, I know we really didn't have a lot of upcoming gaming news for the past couple weeks, so there wasn't really a whole lot I could talk about. But like I said, I'm trying to keep these episodes pretty short. I know we're around the half-hour mark, so we're constantly getting it down there, YouTube. We're constantly getting it down. But if you guys want to hear me talk about anything specific, or if you want to let me know what you were thinking, if you guys seen the Castlevania thing, or if you're interested in Anthem or DoomFist there, just let me know down in the comments below. And my name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.